Hey! Dan Shinder here, live on Drum Talk TV. Well, live if you're watching now while I'm live. You might be watching it on the archive. Everybody wave goodbye to my wife. Bye.
Bye.
So, I'm not going to play, but I do want to talk about something, and I want you all to share your story. This is kind of a heavy week for me. The last week and a half, maybe, because it was last week was the 8th anniversary of my father's passing, which was just a few days before his 72nd birthday, which would have been on the 22nd of June. And today, as I'm recording this, the 25th, is the anniversary of my dad taking me to my first concert. And I'd like you to share your stories too. And here's my story. So first I want to show a picture I'm very proud of. I was 14. I don't know how well you can see that, but I took that picture. That's Led Zeppelin during the battle for Evermore. And I started playing drums when I was 7, and it never occurred to me to be a professional musician. What the hell is that? I wanted to be the next Jacques Cousteau. I wanted to be an oceanographer, and I loved every Jacques Cousteau special, and I drew submersibles, cross-sections of them, designed them. I mean, I was really into it. Studied the Trieste going down to the Marianas Trench, all these things. Took classes on it in summer school as I got a little older. But when I was 14, my dad took me to see, this is a horrible picture. I didn't know anything about exposure. I had no idea how bright the lights would be. That's Led Zeppelin during no quarter from our seats, kind of on the diagonal side of the stage almost. And by the third song, that was June 25th, 1977 at the LA Forum. And by the third song, I thought, wait a minute, you mean you could do that as a job? Be a musician? And just feeling the LA Forum erupt with that music. And the eruption of the crowd's appreciation between the songs, and seeing that sea of people and everyone just having, it was such an amazing time. I had never been to a concert other than like concert band and orchestra and jazz band concerts at school I had played in, which of course were nothing like that. So when I got my hearing back a few days later, I told my parents I don't want to be an oceanographer anymore. And it broke my mom's heart, of course, because my first initials are DR, by no coincidence. My mom was sure I'd grow up to be some sort of doctor, right? Doctor of Oceanography was good enough for her. But when I told them this, she particularly was not upset with me or disappointed in me, but kind of a bubble burst. Well, a year later, exactly a year later, she found an audition for me at 15, which became my first paid pro gig at 15. Touring the United States, playing state fairs with a singing group called Spirit of America. And I played drums, and we opened for Heart, Styx, Blue Oyster Cult, Seals and Crofts, even Pat Boone, a few others. And it really confirmed with me that that's what I wanted to do. And I'll look on my phone and see if I can see comments in a moment. But I'd love for you to share your stories about your first concert, about what made you decide to become a musician, pro or not, working or not. This isn't just about me. This is to share and have this conversation. Because to me, it's a very, very special day. This is a picture of my father and I, strangely enough, at the only other concert we went to. So Zeppelin was the first in 1977. What I'm going to show you now was, June 9th. It's on the back. June 9th, 2000, at the what was called the Coors Amphitheater in San Diego, technically Chula Vista. And that's my dad and I at Steely Dan. Might have been Keith Carlock's first tour with them. I'm really not sure. Can't believe that was 20 years ago. And yes, I had hair. Never nearly as good looking as my pop, though. That was a really fun night. I'll never forget going to that concert with him as a grown man, because in the year 2000, I was 37, had all 4 kids already. So yeah, I'm going to see if there's comments and people sharing their stories, see if I could do that on my phone. I'm not used to navigating, looking at comments of a live on my phone, but let's see if I can do this real quick. But I'd love to hear your stories of your first concert. Were your parents supportive, or who was? Give them a shout out if someone was. And what was the spark that made you want to be a working musician, regardless of where you ended up with that? Let's shut this guy up so I can see comments. Oh, there's 3 comments already. Let's see. Probably people saying shut up. Yeah, someone already put an angry face. Like, why would you put an angry face? Oh, Liz Ficalora High is watching. Liz has an amazing product. Check it out. It's the drum chart builder for building charts on iOS systems instead of writing on a napkin. It's an amazing product. It really is. John Kinsting, Jokin Drums, who is a contributor. He did more recently, Roll Another One, the Roll series, the Talking Hi-Hat series, Brushes, Boobas, and Blunders series, and we got a new one coming out with John. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out from Iraq. Thank you so much. Sadir, how are you? Kaji, thank you so much. John's first concert was in 1959. They had concerts then, John? Jeez. Oh, wow. Count Basie Orchestra with Sonny Payne. I have to say, that does beat out Led Zeppelin if you're a drummer. It really does. Nothing against John, my favorite and biggest influence. Alan White, my second, who I did a 4-hour tribute to last Sunday for his birthday. And then probably Phil Collins, then Carl Palmer, then Neil Peart. But these old school guys, there's nothing like it. They're in a whole other category. Sonny Payne, Rufus Speedy Jones, oh God, Papa Joe Jones, one of my absolute favorites, one of the greatest solos ever. So share your story. What was your first concert? What was the moment when you decided I want to be a working drummer? Whether it was play in a garage band, play at clubs and pubs, or tour your country or a country, or play arenas, or whatever you ended up doing, what did it up here? For me, it was in that seat at the LA Forum, and they were right there. Oh my God. They were right there, those guys. Whole Lot of Love, Song Remains the Same, Stairway to Heaven, Kashmir. It was amazing. I'll never forget the LA Times had an ad that week that ran all week that Zeppelin was playing there. 7 nights they did, I believe. And it was a full page in the calendar section. And all it was, no explanation, just the lyrics to Kashmir all week. Just, it was, for a kid, it was an amazing experience, being 14 plus my dad taking me. It was just amazing. Salem, Virginia, Randy Purdue, thank you. Jim Ho, how's it going? Lawrence Welks, drummer, I don't recall, actually. Jokin Drums might know, he's old enough. Drum Corps, those guys had monster chops, absolutely. I missed that world. I'll tell you that story after I answer a few comments. Or look at some. Randy produces. Ringo did it for me. Randy, when did you first see or hear Ringo? And was it the first time you saw or heard him? Or was there a certain moment farther down that road? For me, it was farther down the road. I started playing the Zeppelin in 1969 at 6.5, 7 years old, 1970. Played each album as it came out. Never thought I'd see them. And I never thought of being a professional musician until I saw them with that 18,000 people or whatever. I know that the Forum is 15,550 for basketball or something. So if you fill up the floor, it's like 18,000 people or something. Just an amazing experience. And the thought that one could do that for a living, will not be Led Zeppelin, but play for people and get paid doing what you love. My wife attributes that to her youthful spirit and the way she looks. My wife, she's not here. My wife is actually, oh, you know what? She might be watching. I'm going to say it. My wife's older than me, but everyone thinks she's 10, 15 years younger than me. She attributes that to, besides the fact she's never done drugs or anything or smoked, she does what she loves. She's been an artist for years, an art therapist and art educator and all that. Let's look at some more. Jim Ho says Iron Butterfly, Inagata Davida. Corrected it to Inagata Davids. Ed Sullivan Show for Ringo. Randy, thank you. John says Johnny Klein was the drummer for Lawrence Welk. That's right. Let's see. Let's have some more. Who else? Here's a couple other pictures. They're horrible, but these are the only surviving pictures. So for those who missed it, let me show again. So here's the battle. I took that. The battle forevermore. Robert and John having a word behind Jimmy's back there. Who knows what they were saying, right? This is during No Quarter with the smoke-filled stage. Totally overexposed. And I was probably shaking, so it's blurry. And here's, you can't see it, but this is the third song, Nobody's Fault But Mine, and Jimmy counting off the break in between. And that's Jimmy doing that. Him and John Paul both wearing white, overexposed in the lighting with a star filter. Again, I was 14, never shot a concert, never had been to a concert, had no idea what I was doing, but these are still treasures for me. I will never forget this night with my dad. And these back here, these timpani drums. Oh, there's a cable on there, so it's rather. I got those because when I saw how John Bonham integrated timpani drums with his drum set like any other drums, I came home from that concert, and after I broke the news, hey, I don't want to be an oceanographer anymore. I want to be a professional. I told my parents, I want something, and I will do anything. And I played timpani drums in concert band at school. As first chair drummer, I refused to play the snare. Wanted to play timpani drums. Drove Mr. Dector, our music director, crazy at Hale Junior High in Woodland Hills, California. So I told my parents, I want timpani drums, my own timpani drums. But you have them at school, but I want them for my drum set, like John Bonham uses them. So a couple months later, this older man, gosh, I'm almost that age now, in his 60s, comes to the driveway with his granddaughter, who was about my age at the time, 14, and the van said Mel Zelnick's music stop. Mel Zelnick had a music store near us that I never went to because I started going to the Southern Music Store owned by Sidney Kay, Danny Kaye's drummer, no relation. Mel Zelnick, back in the day, had played with Artie Shaw and stuff. My parents found out that he had an old pair of timpani drums he was selling. Those are them. They're Slingerland pedal-tuned timpani drums. They bought the pair for $700, which back in 1977 was, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000 maybe? I don't know. I could not believe it. And I paid for that for probably the next 20, 25 years. I dug rosebush holes and repaired the irrigation system in my parents' yard for the next probably 25 years. So I've had those since I was 14, and I love them. Timpani drums are my number one favorite instrument. Believe it or not, my second favorite instrument is the harp. And I've actually played the harp before on a recording. That's another story we'll do another time. Let me see if there's any more comments. Chime in. What was your first concert? What was the spark that led you to become a drummer or a musician of any kind playing for people, whether it was a garage band, whether you're playing with Alice Cooper like Glenn Sobel is now, whether, on whatever level, it doesn't matter. It's the same love, right? So let's see. Hey, from Costa Rica, Neil Corrales. How you doing, Neil? Thank you so much. Murfreesboro is where John Ho is. Saludos desde Argentina. Hola, ¿cómo estás, Gabriel? Who else is on board? James Brown, I Feel Good Drum Lick. That's a good one, Jim. That's great. Lucas Alexandra is watching. I hope I'm pronouncing this one right. Is it Papi Let? Started living drums as a trumpet player in high school. I think it's living. Had a study hall. I'm going to read all this. Had a study hall in the band room. When I was done with trumpet and schoolwork, I messed around in the drum room, reading the rudiments chart on the wall and playing around with the kit that was set up. That was 60 plus years ago. Never looked back. Never pro, but a hobbyist and a weekender and often a union member. that's an awesome story, Peppy. How old are you and where are you watching from? I'm 57, by the way. This year is also a special year in my musical journey. I've been playing, I started 50 years ago. Actually, a little longer, but I count it as 50 years because I was turned 7 and got my drum set April 2nd, 1970. 50 years. I should be a lot better, right? Then we've got Frederick Michael Greiner. Hey, how are you? Randy Perdosa says also Peter Rivera, Rare Earth, loved his singing and playing. Awesome. Gregor Hudson, how are you? So we're talking about my first concert, which was Led Zeppelin 43 years ago today, June 25th. And it was that moment by the third song, which was nobody's fault but mine, coincidentally, where I decided I did not want to be an oceanographer, which is what I had my heart set on. I wanted to be a full-time musician. And then it was a year later, my mother found my first tour. I'll tell you that story real quick, okay? So she found this audition, and she said, hey, I found an audition for a singing group that has a band, and they're going on tour in a month. Do you want me to take you to the audition? I said, sure. So she called me an appointment. A week later, we went. We're in the auditorium. Those of you who are my age or older may remember in Los Angeles was a radio show called Lohman and Barkley. They might have even been syndicated. The drummer that was leaving was Al Lohman Jr., Al's son. And he was in his 20s then. I was 15. And I watched them rehearse with just my mother next to me in this auditorium. They were rehearsing the show, and he was going to be leaving. They were playing stuff like Neil Diamond, Barbra Streisand, ABBA, Linda Ronstadt, and I was playing at the time Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis. Yes, I mean I was in it. For 15, I was ahead of the curve. I was really in it, and so after about 20 minutes, I leaned over to my mom and I whispered and I said, "Mom, I don't really want to play this kind of music." And she turned in her seat and grabbed my shirt and shook me and said, "What's wrong with you? I thought you wanted to be a professional musician. They're going to pay you to go on tour and play music. Your father and I could never afford to send you on a trip like this. What difference does it make, excuse me, what kind of music it is?" And the light bulb went on above my head and I thought, yeah, what does it matter? And so when they were done rehearsing, the director, who was also the piano player, came, sat in the row in front of us and turned around. And he said, I was Danny then. He said, "So Danny, what do you think?" And I lied and I said, "Oh, it looks great." I still wasn't real fond of the music, but I knew Neil Diamond because my parents, I listened to that growing up. And I actually loved Neil Diamond. But Barbra Streisand, Linda Ronstadt, some of the other stuff, ABBA, I wasn't at that time a huge fan of and not familiar with the music at all. And so he said, "So do you think you could play it?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "What do you do now?" And I said, "Well, I'm in jazz band at school. I play in concert band. I'm first chair drummer. I play Yes, Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Led Zeppelin." And he said, okay. So, Mom, what do you think? Can he go on tour with us? And she said, "Well, I got to talk to my husband, but let me ask you this." And she asked a bunch of business questions, of course. And I never auditioned. I never got up on the drums on the stage and played with them. I showed up a week later, and now there's 2 weeks before the tour. I rehearsed with them 4 times, playing songs other than a couple Neil Diamond songs that I had never heard before, and then got on this bus with all these people I knew, a singing group that was mostly girls, 16, 17, 18. I was 15, the director on piano, and I got to see pretty much every state fair in the United States playing drums at 15, came back, and I had just seen Led Zeppelin, a year ago. So I took my little boom box and headphones and had all these cassettes of Zeppelin bootlegs from the year I had just seen them and all this other music, but yet I'm going on stage and playing all this music I just really wasn't interested in. But I had fun and I loved it, don't get me wrong, and it was an amazing learning experience. And I'll never forget calling the music store saying, "Hey, I'm getting low on sticks," and they sent me a big, at that time, I don't even think we called them bricks. It was a big box of sticks. And when that thing met us at a hotel in a city we were playing, I thought he struck gold. I couldn't believe it. So an amazing experience. It was all really, I think, because I saw my first concert, which happened to be 43 years ago today. It was Led Zeppelin with my dad. I'll show a picture of my dad again. Uh, this was not at Led Zeppelin. This was in 2000, 23 years later. My dad and I, June 9th, 2000 at Steely Dan. I had hair a little bit. My dad had lots of hair. Real good looking guy, smart guy. And I miss him. He passed away 8 years ago last week. His birthday would have been a couple days ago. He would have been 80. And I'd love to hear your stories and what got you into playing music, whether professionally or as a hobbyist, or just, that you love playing for people, or even, as my wife says, I do a lot, play with myself. Right back here, just blasting my favorite music. Yes, I do, Jim. I do love my pop. Miss both my parents so much. Martin Workman, how are you? Jim Ho also says, I think rock band solo-wise, Genesis, Dance on a Volcano, drum duet, Los Sendos, absolutely. I performed with Neil Diamond, really. Coming to America when I was in the Marine Drum and Bugle Corps. Oh, I was going to touch on my drum corps non-experience. I'll get to that. Eddie Patrick says, my first concert was Pat Travers opening for Rush. I saw that, the Hemispheres tour. It was the first time I saw Tommy Aldridge as well. And I saw, where did you see them? I saw them twice in a row. 1978 was the tour, Long Beach Arena, and then 2 nights later at the San Bernardino Swing, which was a converted airplane hangar where they normally held boxing matches, and Rush played there, much tinier venue, no pyrotechnics allowed. That was amazing. John says, did my dad like Zeppelin? My dad loved Zeppelin, loved their acoustic stuff, loved everything on side 2 of Zeppelin 3, loved going to California, loved all that, but also really grooved on stuff like Kashmir, Trampled Underfoot, Down by the Seaside, 10 Years Gone, Whole Lot of Love, Moby Dick, Out on the Tiles, Immigrant Song. Yeah, my dad was a rocker. My dad also, his favorite band was, this is interesting, my dad's favorite rock band was Jethro Tull, and Jethro Tull's drummer, Don Perry, coincidentally called me the other day on my dad's birthday, and I said, Don, you have no idea how weird this is. It was cool. So yeah, my dad, and he loved Pink Floyd, Simon and Garfunkel. I grew up on a lot of stuff Hal Blaine played on. Simon and Garfunkel. My parents loved Neil Diamond. Let's see, who else here has something to say about their first concert and what made them want to be a musician. Christian Time, thank you so much. Rest in peace, Dan's dad. Thank you very much. Craig Kimbrough is watching. And Eddie Patrick says, Cal Palace. That name is familiar, I think. Who is that? Oh, the spelling. Palace. I don't know who that is. Eddie's in San Francisco. Thank you, Eddie. So while we gather a couple more stories and comments of yours, because it's not just about me, I will tell you, in 10th grade, which was the first year of high school, I tried, and I do say try, I tried marching band with the school. And after about 6 or 8 weeks, I bailed. I didn't like it. It was way too regimented, way too rigid. I was already starting to jam with other musicians playing rock music on my drum set. And it was taking up a lot of time, a lot of homework time, and a lot of time, and I did not enjoy it. And Dan Shinder doesn't do anything unless he enjoys it. I just don't. And if it's something like emptying the cat box, I'll somehow make it fun. And I just did not enjoy it. And now that I'm older, much older, senior citizen, believe it or not, I know I look 30. Just kidding. I've got kids older than that. My second youngest is 30. You should never have regrets, but I admire the chops that drum set players have who were in drum corps, like Jason Sutter, like Emmanuel Caplet, who didn't touch a drum set until she was in college and was in drum and bugle corps from the time she was 9 years old. I really admire that. But my path is what it was, and I am who I am now because of that. And I really enjoy playing. Unlike past lives I've had, I am not recording, I'm not producing, I'm not touring, I'm not doing session work, I'm not teaching, I'm not composing, I'm not doing any of those things I used to do as a career. And I think I'm having more fun as a drummer and a musician than I've ever had. And a big part of it is because of you folks and Drum Talk TV, and I sincerely mean that. Yeah, heavy drums. And I played tri-toms. They didn't even have quads then, let alone quints. Saw Kiss. Mike says, Schumacher says, saw Kiss, but was already listening to them and Boston. Cool. And says, oh, he means the Police. You know what? I think you're right. Thank you for that. Eddie, do you mean the Police? Wow, that's a great first concert. I just watched a concert with Peter Gabriel and Sting last night at my desk in my office while I was kind of working, which was really cool. It's called Rock, Paper, Scissors. I love both those guys. So I think, oh, wow, one world champion on trips. That's awesome, Jim. Thank you. I've been trying to break out, but nobody taking me up. I'm moving to the Boston area with good leads. Good. I really want to thank everybody for following what we do on Drum Talk TV. If you're not totally familiar with what we do, read the About section of our Facebook page. But I want to give you just a real quick synopsis. So as you might know, right back here, usually, sometimes over there on another drum set, and I have another new drum set that I'm going to set up that I've actually had for 5 years, but I haven't set it up since we moved here 3.5 years ago. It's an electronic kit I'm going to set up. But yeah, right back here, I do Dan's Almost Daily Vlog a few times a week. We talk about drummers, drumming, songs, break stuff down. I have a lot of fun playing my favorite music. Have fun getting bashed, criticized, and burned by pseudo fans. But I love doing what I do. What can I tell you? And so we do that. As you know, I do interviews. I just interviewed Peter Erskine, Nico McBrain. It's been a really busy month. So many I can't even remember. Real busy month. Pat Petrillo tomorrow. And Saturday is Achilles Priester. So we do interviews. We cover events like the NAMM Show, Singapore Drum Fest. We went to Japan and Singapore last August. I directed and produced 2 documentaries on taiko drumming. So in fact, I'm going to republish those next week. So we do documentaries, cover events, do the interviews. I do this BS back here. We got show contributors like John Kinsting, who I mentioned earlier, and Jason Gianni and me start a new series next week, July 2nd, called The Tribute to the Tributes. We're going to break down killer tribute bands of all styles of music. It's going to be fun. Wait to see who we got. And most important, we curate videos from our fans from over 100 countries. If you want to submit something, there's a video submissions tab on the top right corner of drumtalktv.com. Sign up for our newsletter. There's a sign up button on the Facebook page. And in each issue, I publish interviews from that previous month, in case you missed them, and let you know what interviews are coming and industry news, things like that. And so that's what Drum Talk TV is, in case you don't know. I'm going to look at comments one more time and thank everybody so much. I guess that's it. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to do, my next live is on, I think, Saturday afternoon. I think. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Saturday, I'm in Arizona, so because we don't move with daylight savings, it's the same as Pacific time. I think Saturday afternoon, possibly Sunday as well. I'm doing Pat Petrillo's interview tomorrow, or today if you're watching it Friday, or I did it yesterday if you're watching it Saturday. Maybe it was a week ago, a month ago, depending on when you see this. Anyways, follow what we do, please. Share it with people who you know not just love drums and percussion, but love music. We publish, unlike our industry peers, we publish drumming from all over the world. Not just the biggest rock stars, pop stars, jazz stars, and educators, but the Gatham clay pot from the southern tip of India, from Chennai. Tablas, mridangam, frame drums, congas, Latin drumming, everything. Taiko drumming. We did 2 freaking documentaries on taiko drumming. No one else has done that in our space. So please, dive in, enjoy it, and I think we're good to go. And since my wife left and went back to work in her studio upstairs, I'm going to disappear and press the button back there. Thank you very much. And thanks, Dad. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Remember to sign up for our newsletter. Don't tank!